What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today, this is just a topic that kind of has been on my mind, on my heart for a little bit. And it's this concept of balance. So I saw this yin yang symbol. If you haven't ever seen it, it's this yin yang symbol. It's like a kind of like a martial arts symbol that talks about like balance, right? Like things are always trying to flow into balance. And life is balanced. There's a season for winter, fall, spring, summer. There's a time where the night comes and then there's a time where morning is there. Life is pretty balanced in terms of that. The weather kind of balances out and things like that. But us as human beings, we're not really balanced. And I've noticed this in myself, noticed this in others. And it's just about this imbalance, right? Especially like in relationships. Like most people, let's say you didn't get something as a child, right? Like you didn't get attention from your mom or your dad or whatever. And you're imbalanced. You grow up kind of lopsided. Like you have this perspective that is like, you got attention from one parent, you didn't get attention from another parent. So every time you get into a relationship or you talk to other individuals, you're looking for the attention that you wanted in that parent in another individual, and you're imbalanced, right? So we look for other people to complete us. We look for careers to complete us. It's actually crazy. Sometimes you meet someone, I talked to a lot of people like this, but like, someone that was bullied in high school, or someone that was, counted out, doubted or something like that. Someone that didn't make the track team. And that you could say stressor, or that situation is like their motivation for everything they do. They're imbalanced. So they're trying to prove themselves their entire life. So you'll see someone, they'll become a professional MMA fighter. I had teammates like this, right? When I used to train martial arts, they'll become a professional MMA fighter. And it's not because they love MMA, but it's because this is the one career that's gonna help them take their power back, help them feel strong, help them feel like someone that's powerful, right? And that's dangerous because like you never really addressed the imbalance. The imbalance was that you felt unpowerful as a kid, right? But you use MMA as a crux, as a band-aid. You're putting a band-aid on a stab wound. So like, medicine, we talk about that, right? Like you have to address the root cause. If someone comes in bleeding out, you can't just say, hey, we're just gonna, sew their body up and hope the bleeding stops. No, we gotta address the artery that's bleeding. And that's the same thing with ourselves. Like we have to address our imbalance, the holes in our personality, or the holes in our upbringing, things like that cause us to, chase careers that we don't really love, chase people that we want to complete us and things like that. And it's just too much pressure, especially in dating. One thing I've noticed is like, if you try to have someone complete you, it's just too much pressure on the other party. So becoming balanced. And then that goes into like relationships, right? Like the first relationship you have in life is with yourself. It's the man in the mirror, right? Like how do you see yourself every day? How do you talk to yourself when things go wrong and things go, poorly? It's like a period of like, life is like a period of like self-discovery, rediscovery. Like you're looking at the adult you is making friends with the child you. Like as children, we're helpless, right? We can't really, you're the weakest physically you're ever gonna be. You're the smallest. Adults are taller and bigger and stronger. So you assume superiority in adults. You assume superiority. And our life is kind of like at their whim. When your parents say wake up, you wake up. When they say eat, you eat. You don't really have a choice of what you can eat, things like that. So as kids, we don't really have power, and there's like that silent struggle, right? So a lot of things that we're feeling, a lot of our beliefs are kind of suppressed because you're a kid. That's what they'll say. So we grow up, right, with these things brewing under the surface that we really never made amends with, came to grips with, and then they show up later on in life. And that's why when they say that situations are your teacher, it's actually pretty crazy, because sometimes you get into a situation and the way you react in that situation, you're taken back. You're like, whoa, what is going on with me? How on earth did I act in that way? And you're learning yourself through situations, because there's so many things that are suppressed, and it goes back to our imbalance. So I think my solution for that is like journaling and kind of reflecting. Like I reflect on the day. Some philosopher back in the day, maybe he was Italian, maybe he was Roman or something like this, but he said that he likes to break his day up into 8 hours of work, meaning you wake up, you sweat, right? If you're a doctor, you sweat in a hospital. If you're a businessman, you sweat in business. If you're a construction guy, you lift rocks and climb, whatever you do, right? 8 hours of work, diligent work, 8 hours of leisure, right? Leisure meaning like philosophy, reading up on life, reflecting on things, going out with friends, going to dinner, going to the club if you want to, going to do your hobbies, things like that. 8 hours of leisure, okay? And then 8 hours of rest. And that's 24 hours. And I actually kind of like that breakdown of the day, because most people work for 16 hours and then they sleep and then they wake up, right? They don't ever reflect on what's going on. And life is always giving us feedback, information, you know, it's always putting us in situations that can help us grow. And something I was always told is like, you cannot skip fifth grade, meaning you can't skip a lesson that you're supposed to learn, right? Like you're gonna keep going through the same situations, knocking your head on wood until you learn that lesson. So being reflective, using those 8 hours of leisure and reflection actually helps you advance, right? So that's one thing I've kind of learned in terms of like being balanced and things like that. And then the last thing is, you know, I started doing salsa, and I'm kind of getting interested in horseback riding. I don't know why. And I've had a ton of hobbies. I've had, you know, the martial arts, the boxing and kickboxing and wrestling and grappling and judo. Then I went to the salsa. Then I may go into horseback riding. And one thing I'm learning even from dance is like, it takes time to get good, and you have to go through the suck. You have to embrace that white belt mentality, that mentality where like, okay, I'm a beginner and that's okay. You have to embrace that. And if you can embrace that, like then you get to a point where like you actually start to love whatever art you're doing, right? You love, I'm starting to love dance because I'm starting to understand the language of it. I'm starting to understand the intricacies. And that's why it takes like a lifetime. You can't really ever master something because there's only some information that you're privy to after you put in 20 years of hard work and sweat and things like that. So it's very interesting to think about. But I think the really moral of the story here is like becoming balanced. Like we're all in balance. So look at yourself. Like, where are you in balance? Are you looking for attention and love from other people, right? Are you looking for a career to save you? Are you looking for a significant other to save you? Are you looking for drugs and alcohol and things like that to save you, to help you escape? Or are you getting your sense of worth from even your kids and things like that? Because your kids could move away from a country, move across the country and never speak to you again, or something unfortunate situation could happen and they leave and they die or something like that. You still have to live, right? So you have to get your balance internally. So I hope that made sense. That video was just kind of like on my heart, on my mind, and I feel like I figured I'd share it. So with that being said, out, you guys. Good talking.